welcome, ladies and gentlemen. We have with us Ajay Srivastav, CEO at Dimensions Consulting, joining in. Ajay, welcome to the show. My first
Thank you very
question
much.
to you is, do you think that the finance minister has opened her purse and to rebuild India right now?
Well, I think, I don't know whether open the purse is wrong, but I think she certainly opened her heart because she did what the people wanted. She's not done what we were fear of expecting was. So I think it's come as a both ways. It is a great positive to see estimates are wonderfully well done this time, unlike last year where they were kind of, odd and at least. So all in all, I think it's opening the heart is more relevant than opening the purse because expenditure wise, we know she has a constraint in terms of how much we can spend. And I'm sorry. Okay. So to that extent, I think there is a very clear basis on them that we will give a correct estimate and then we will follow it up. And avoiding COVID tax, masterstroke. That's a masterstroke, really speaking.
Absolutely, and that was something that everyone was worried about, that already the GST rates are high. Everyone's anticipating that one nation, one tax is going to be the aim. And with that, if you have another cess that could be coming in on the annual, that's something people were worried about. However, would you call this a responsible and a growth-oriented budget, taking the unprecedented times into consideration?
I would think so. Except that I was little kind of underwhelmed with the thing on divestment. I thought there would have been more powerful statement of strategic divestment. It was there. The estimates are 1,97,000. I thought it could have been much more. So I think it's been again a little bit of a meeker game on the divestment part. Rest everything runs by the clock. She's increased the subsidy for the farmers, and you saw the emphasis on wheat, particularly given the agitation going on. So there was a political statement on Kerala, West Bengal, so all the right thing. But I would think that divestment was still underplayed to a large extent. There was not a decisive statement saying we are out of it. It is again the same statement as last time, and that's where I think a lot more could have been done than what it was perhaps in the budget. One can quibble with small things, but I think that was a powerful statement she could have made to say we are moving on now with divestment. I think there's a hesitancy there in that respect.
Correct. And then how would you actually describe how the markets have reacted to the budget? Because clearly a flurry of schemes that have been announced across the healthcare, auto and infrastructure space. Along with that, you have a couple of reforms that have come in for the agriculture sector as well. So if you have to see the market reaction to the announcements, how would you actually describe the same?
See, market reaction is twofold. One was that this setup was perfect because we came back after 7 days of selling relentlessly, and there was a sharp up move in all the markets, at least in the Asian market in the morning, and hoping for a short covering. You saw the major up rally in silver, which was on the same basis as what happened in the US. So the market was set to an extent of oversold, and there was an element of fear that the FIs will in the afternoon come and do short covering. So to the extent, technically, the market was set up right on opening. But I think what added to the thing was two major instincts. One was that all the new bank for bad loans. I think that was the one good trigger which came around. And the second trigger was the development financial institution. So it was made very clear that the burden of infrastructure projects will not be put onto the nationalized banks or put anything under the foreign banks or the private bank. So essentially what she did was cleared the path to say now there is a bad bank, so to the extent bad loans bank, so bad loans can move there, so everybody gains from it because whether nationalized banks or private banks, they all have loans to same companies by and large. So that's an added thing to IBC, and they can be sold to AIF. I think that's the greatest thing she's done today, that not only resolution companies, but AIFs now can invest in bad loan debts and take over companies. I think that it's a beautiful step. So therefore the banks got the fill up because of the bad loan bank and the infrastructure funding, and the setup of technicals was perfect. So I think both came together to give this explosive stuff, and it was overdue.
Right. And overall, if you have to talk about different sectors as well, clearly a 30 and 34 to 35% higher capital budget with regards to where infrastructure is concerned. And they're looking at infra monetization via InvITs. What would you make of this move?
See, I think InvIT is a good move because we've already seen the great success of IndiGrid. Except there is a flaw in that, and I think the flaw is, if you look at IndiGrid also, it only flew once KKR took over the operating company, and then the InvIT flew because customers and investors could find that, okay, there's a large institutional investor managing this InvIT, and it is a private, it is foreign, and they can bring in more capital and borrow money and leverage it. Therefore, there is certainly a benefit of that. But now to have InvITs of Power Grid and GAIL, which are managed by government authorities, I would tend to believe that that will get a lot less mileage than if it were privatized and strategic owners to this. So it's a good move. It's tested. Now there are two InvITs in the market, one for real estate, one for the Power Grid, the third, and one for road, which is a very small one, which is IRB. Fourth one, Brookfield, is coming now. So it's a good step, but I think they will not realize the full value till the trustee company is not given in private hands. If it is in the same government hands, then both ministries running both sides. So the idea of an InvIT is that they become independent. They won't become independent if the same secretary is in charge of the InvIT as well as the operating company. They need to sell it to make it a success, and I think that's where the shortcoming of the InvIT announcement was.
Right. And apart from this, if you have to talk about, the textile sector as well, 7 mega textile parks to be set up over 3 years. Plus, they've increased the FDI in insurance from 49% to 74%. And thirdly, if you have to talk about, any other sectors as well, customs duty, there have been changes that have come in. What would you make of these steps? Do you think this is a positive as well?
I think the greatest positive is tobacco. It wasn't even referred to in the whole document. Man, that's one surprise this budget has had after 10 years or so, perhaps. I don't know how many years budget tax tobacco used to be hit every time. This time it was run. ITC is doing good. So I think it's done wonders. I think 74 FDI, absolutely great move. There is no doubt about it. Textile park, I have my own doubts about textile park because I think we are chasing an industry where we are basically uncompetitive. Our power rates, our labor rates are so high that we are very, very uncompetitive in textile industry, and it is showing up. To have more of textile parks and then to have people to come and invest there. If you be a PE investor or be any investor for the matter, would you be putting your money in a textile industry today? Perhaps not at this point of time. So it's a good gesture given the context of the scale of the problem in the industry, lots of closures. But whether it's got any merit influence, I doubt it. Whether it'll move the needle, unlikely. Will it make us competitive? Very unlikely. So I think 74 FDI, very good. Textile park, okay, it's a good thing to talk about it, but that's not going to happen. And tobacco being left out, I think it's fantastic. So lots of good surprises our Madam Finance Minister has given us this time.
Absolutely. And then, another proposal that has come in is to consolidate the SEBI's Act, Depositories Act, the Government Securities Act into one. What do you think it could have any impact with regards to markets?
Well, I think it's a good thing she's doing it, but till the point we don't see the fine print, one can't see what's the impact because it's in the details at the end of the day what they want to do and why they want to do it. Sure, it's a good idea to streamline, but I think as an industry, we have been so many changes that for some time we may want to just be on a status quo to get used to what we have. So nobody can argue with the moral of having a common code, but the point is that by the time you do it, do you overcomplicate it or do you simplify it? And I'll give an example of that. Like if you see this whole thing about income tax returns, we will not open it for less than 50 lakhs beyond 3 years. But then all other, it moves from 6 years to 10 years. So, people who are below 50 lakh cases are very far and few between where tax returns are open for 50 lakhs of cases. Very, very rare. But now you've taken a condition that from 6 years become 10 years. So sometimes simplification actually complicates life for people and less management becomes more management at the point of time. So let's look at the fine print. I don't think it's a critical necessity and nothing you can react to because you don't know what it looks like, the final code.
Right. And overall on the macro front, Ajay, if you have to see, clearly they've indicated that it's going to be a long, slow fiscal guide path. Now, the deficit is expected to reduce from 9.5% in FY21 to 4.5% by FY26. So taking this into consideration, do you think that the government has chosen infra push, capex revival, and they've not really shied away, say, from some fiscal slippage while staying on the paths of consolidation?
Well, that's what I mentioned that, yeah, I think you're right that they've continued on the path of fiscal expansion. It's an expansion budget by and large. And if it could have been matched with serious revenue intakes from privatization of the PSUs, it would have been a great thing for two reasons. One, there would have been less of fiscal deficit. And more importantly, huge amount of assets of this country would have become far more productive. I'm sure you all know and your viewers know the fact that the PSU set of companies had the least impressive stock market performance in the last 7 to 10 years at this point of time. And they have been the laggards in the market. So two things could have been achieved: fiscal consolidation and more productive and expansionary assets. And if these companies could have been privatized, their capex plan would be multiple of what they're doing today. So I think it's good expansionary budget, but I think a lot could have been done if PSU thing was put into this plan together and done in a mega divestment plan. Well, but anyway, I can't quibble. We've done a good, whatever has been done is good, and expansion budget is on the way. So they have not shied away to that extent. So I think onus is on the industry now to respond.
Absolutely. And in any sectors that you think have missed out, because a lot of impetus, Ajay, was that, tourism, aviation, or even for that matter, hospitality, these were sectors which have actually been bleeding on the back of COVID. And everyone was expecting some bit of a recommendation to the GST Council in the form of tax cuts, etc. Do you think nothing has been done for them yet?
Well, I think, let me put it this way. The hotel aviation industry, there's nothing much the government can do at the end of the day for them because, they are private. Selling Air India is the only option they have. Okay, so what more? The credit is available to them, and to that extent, credit is very easily available to them. So what more can they do at the end of the day for aviation? Hotels, GST reduction, the answer is yes. A lot could have been done, but that's not their forte. That's not budget. That's GST Council at the end of the day. So to me, it's always been, tourism has been an oddball out. We don't think in India believe that tourism is our main earner, not like England. And therefore, our emphasis remains what it is. So yes, you're right. You picked it up very correctly. A lot more could have been done for that sector. But as I said, in any budget, you can, after 10 hungry mouths, you can feed only few of them. And perhaps tourism will remain to be a hungry mouth for 1 or a year.
Right. So overall, if you have to see at the markets, Ajay, right now, Nifty, we've topped the 14,100 mark already. Sensex has reclaimed levels of 48,000. With this kind of a budget speech and the reforms and the recommendations have come through, do you think this upward rally is something which will sustain?
I think rally is a lot dependent not on the budget alone, but what's going to happen internationally in the US in the next few days. Because if the aftermath of what transpired last week continues, we could see serious volatility coming around, because the fact is that the financing sources of hedge funds is shrinking. The bank loans have been withdrawn or reduced to that extent. The good part is that the shorts are moving out. So technically what's happening is, while liquidity might see some selling coming through from foreign institution buyers and hedge funds, and that could happen even today in the next 1 hour or so, or half an hour left. But the fact is that generally the global market, all shorts positions are being covered as a matter of prudence and principle, and which is the great, for any market, if shorts cover, they add on to the longs to the extent, it's a great market to be. So volatility we'll have, I think, but let's not say all because of budget. It's also because what's happening technically and globally in the market in terms of funding and covering of short positions.
So what levels would you be watching out for?
See, more than levels, I think the key is that what happens to the blue chips. I think that's where the thing is. Because blue chips is where most people are invested and FIs come in. Mid-cap is not what they invest in. The key is what happens to you saw the severe selling in HDFC Bank. That's what rattles the market. If HDFC and HDFC twins cannot survive the onslaught, the rest of the market gets rattled and sellout starts and people start panicking. So I think the key is, instead of levels, to see is there a flow, is it positive or negative of FIs? Because if it remains negative of significant amount, we could see even a correction from this onward. If we remain positive for next 2-3 days, or at least at par marginally, then we are good to go for another 3 to 4%.
Right. And then with this, the key events, Ajay, that we were watching out for was the budget, and now you have the RBI policy, which is slated. Already, the kind of announcements that have come in for the banks has been good. Do you think the RBI will be in a position to further give them some levy in the form of interest rate cut, or maybe in the form of liquidity or ease of doing business? And that's something where we need to focus our energies on from a market perspective, say from the banking side.
I don't think, RBI has done its bit. Let's be honest, it's done more than its bit. So LTRO, which is available at 4% cost, could not have been better term. People have used money at cheaper cost. So RBI is on the other path. It's trying to take away the stimulus in terms of easy liquidity. But I think what eyes are going to be that what's going to be the borrowing calendar of RBI? Are they going to front end this borrowing? Are they going to back end this borrowing of 12 lakh crore coming through? That's going to be the more crucial part of it. And interest rate, I don't think will be reduced. The inflation is still pretty high. It can go up given what's happening. It's in an expansionary budget can typically lead to higher inflation, and that anybody knows is 101 of economics. So therefore, I don't think interest rate cut is coming. I don't think so there's any relaxation coming. I think what we will see is a glide path towards withdrawal of liquidity, how are we going to handle it, and what's going to be comment on the union budget and the borrowing calendar. I think that's where the industry is going to be. But if you look at it, we are roughly at about 6% for a 10-year bond. I think RBI wants to be kept there. The key issue now is what happens to rupee, because rupee has strengthened a lot. Will RBI now make it depreciate? I think that's the key question to us, is that it's moved back from 75 back to 73, and now will it go back to 75? So more than anything, policy matters on FX is more to watch, and the borrowing calendar. Interest rate, I don't think will go down, and I do not think there is more relaxation coming in terms of money supply compared to what they've given in RBI. So let's focus and see what they talk about the calendar, borrowing calendar, and the yield management.
Absolutely. And, from here on as well, execution is going to be key. And I think the markets are set for the biggest budget day gain since 2001. So seems like markets and even, normal people, layman is happy right now. Thank you so much, Ajay, for joining us on the show. Pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Let's get to the fine print and understand what's slated more as well. Thank you so much.